The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's DocuWare 6.7 Searching and Document Processing with the Web Client. My name is Gary Sarlos, and I am your educator for today. I will be reviewing some of the possibilities of searching within DocuWare and then get into a little bit of the processing of the documents towards the end of today's session. I would like to begin by talking about and showing you some of the simple search possibilities in DocuWare. We are going to take a look at our search dialogs and using our autofill or our select lists or filtered select lists, show you some simple, easy ways to find documents that you're looking for in your DocuWare filing cabinets. So I'm going to switch over to my DocuWare system. This would be a DocuWare system, and our web client, as we know, will be part of our DocuWare browser. So I'm going to open up our browser, and here you see we have our document trays, we have our search capabilities, our search dialogs, our lists, and our tasks. We'll refer to the list later on. Right now, I just want to focus on the simple search possibilities in DocuWare. So to open up a search dialog, the first thing I need to do is determine which dialog I would like to search within. So I have a couple different ones, all in the same filing cabinet. We called our filing cabinet document pool in this case. So if I open up a search dialog, maybe I'll just open my accounting dialog. If I want to start looking for specific documents in my filing cabinet, if I have them indexed by certain names for companies and document types and status of documents, I could simply start by using my autofill to find any documents. So just by typing in a letter, it'll start to bring up a list of companies that start with the letter F. I also have the possibility to use my select list, which would give me a list of all the companies in my file cabinet. Now, obviously, as your cabinets grow and you have thousands and thousands of companies, a select list could be more time consuming than simply typing in a couple letters to find those documents. Then I would simply select the company I'm looking for. This would be Flying Tom, and I could do a search, and based on my search, I'll get back the result of all the documents for that specific company. Now, perhaps when I do a search for a specific company, maybe I'm looking for a specific document type. So if I type in my Flying Tom again, and I put in Flying Tom Germany, now rather than search and bring back all my result lists, all my documents to my result list, maybe I'm looking for a specific document type. So here I could use my drop down if I'm not sure what specific document type it is, and I could bring up the document types that are available for Flying Tom. So I could as well just type in the letter L, and it'll show me those documents that begin with those specific characters. But based on what I'm looking for, I could use my filtered index, which means these are the only document types that I have available for Flying Tom in my filing cabinet. If I take my filter off, this would show me all the document types in the file cabinet. But if I look for a document type of letter L and I search, I have no documents, not for Flying Tom for letter L. So a lot of times what I see to be most useful is to use the selective select list. So now I know if I look for a lease contract, I know that document will exist. So those are just some easy ways to find your documents and use your select lists and your autofill possibilities to find these documents. The more refined your search is, the easier it's going to be to find exactly the document you're looking for. So I'm just going to go ahead and reset here, and that is what I wanted to show you on some of the simple search functionality. Okay. Extended searches. Now, if maybe we have some misentered information and we're not finding a document that we're looking for, we could always use wildcards, asterisks, to help us find specific documents. We also can use some various Boolean operators, or we could search for multiple strings within a field in a DocuWare file cabinet. So these would help you more so if you're having trouble finding exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for a group of documents, maybe by multiple companies, and you want to find them all in one search. So I'll show you how we would use the wildcard, and I'll show you how we'll use the multiple strings in one field. So if I want to use a wildcard, so perhaps I'm looking for Flying Tom. But I know that the documents could be stored under Flying Tom Deutschland, or they could be stored under Flying Tom Germany. Well, I don't want to type out Flying Tom Germany and Flying Tom Deutschland or Flying Tom Deutschland. It's simple. I could just type in an F, maybe an FLY, and just use my wildcard character. Now, rather than bring up just documents for Flying Tom Germany or just documents for Flying Tom Deutschland, now we do a search and we could bring back all those documents for both those companies, simply sort on those companies and find whatever it is we're looking for by using these special characters or these wildcard type characters. Now, that's a sample of finding multiple companies based on a wildcard to represent the characters to find all those companies. But as well, if I'm looking for multiple companies but a wildcard doesn't suit my needs, then maybe if I'm looking for Flying Tom and I want to find all Flying Tom documents, I could do a Flying Tom, and or maybe there's an affiliated company with Flying Tom that I would look for, and maybe the name of that company is, let's say, Leisure Park. So I could just type in a wildcard with the beginning of those characters to find those companies. So now if I do a search, now it's not going to bring back everything in my file cabinet, but what it is going to do is it's going to bring back all my documents for Flying Tom companies and all my documents for Leisure Park Mosier. So now I have the ability to search beyond a simple search for a company or beyond a simple character string, but now multiple character strings within those fields. And I could do that for different document types. I could do that for pretty much any index field and any values that exist in any of those index fields. So that's a very useful tool, and that's something that a lot of our customers have gotten comfortable with and use these tools to help them locate documents. Okay, so that's our extended searches, our wildcards, and our multiple search strings. Now, another possibility that we see a lot of use is what we call our full text searching of documents. Our full text searching allows us to retrieve documents based on a string of characters within the document. So now we're not necessarily looking at the index values of the documents or the data that's tied to the documents, but more the text that exists on the documents. So we could search for words within documents. And again, we do have that possibility to search for multiple words within those documents. So if I show you what I'm talking about here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a simple full text search, and maybe what I'll do is look for documents that have the word steel in those documents. So now rather than looking for a company name or an index field specifically, if we use full text in a file cabinet, now this full text is turned on per file cabinet. So if we have 4 cabinets, we may only use full text in one of them. However that decision is made, we'll have that full text field available to us in our filing cabinet. So if I want to search for the word steel, now it's going to go out and look at the images in the file cabinet and bring back a result list, not based on data, tied to the document, but more data or information or text on that document. So if I open up a document here, it's going to basically, based on my indexing, find where it says steel on the document and show me that word steel. So this is how, even if we don't understand or don't know the indexing on a document, it'll show us where it finds the word steel, and it'll show us highlighting the first hit and multiple hits throughout the document. One of the nice parts is if it's a multi-page document and the word doesn't appear until the 64th page of that document, when you search on it, it'll take you right to page 64 and show you where it's found that information. Now, other options are maybe I don't want to include my leisure park documents in here. I only want to find my U.S. Steel. Well, then I could put U.S. Steel in as my company, and then of my U.S. Steel documents, maybe I just want to find the word girder in those documents. So just my U.S. Steel documents bring me back a list of documents with the word girder on those documents. So this is another possibility, and now again, it'll do the same. It'll highlight where it finds it and then show me the multiple hits after that. And one last thing, maybe I'm looking for only U.S. Steel documents, but I would like to find the word steel or girder. So based on that, now I could go look for multiple words on a document and show me exactly where they find them. So just want to stress to you the uses of full text. Obviously, if it's available, it should bring back all the results that you're looking for, and it'll just help you refine more. A lot of our customers that have larger documents and maybe their indexing isn't as clean as it should be, then they could always fall back to their full text to find their images simply by searching in the full text fields. Okay, so now also what we do, now that we've done some of these searches and we've searched using full text and we've done some simpler extended searches, what the DocuWare web client will allow you to do is basically retain some of these searches. So you could always go back to searches that you may have already run and still have access to those searches. So you don't have to rerun a lot of these searches. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. In the DocuWare web client, I've done a search and I've got a result list for these U.S. Steel documents with this specific criteria. Now, if I want to run another search, and maybe this search, I want to do a document search in my document pool file cabinet and look for my leisure park Mosier documents. I'll bring up that search, and you can see now I still have the ability to go back to my U.S. Steel search, and it'll retain my leisure park search. And as well, maybe I'd like to do a search, an enhanced type search, maybe for a company called the Office People, and the document type for the Office People would be a letter N, and I search. I don't have any documents for that doc type, but if I do a search for my Office People docs, now I have the ability to just bounce back through my different searches. And the more searches you build, I'll build one more search here, and maybe for this one, I'll search for my imaging system documents. And you could see now, it'll just continue to store or save these multiple searches. And the more I get, I could scroll back and forth. So it just makes it more comfortable and more easy based on searches. Now, if I've done a search for imaging system and I know I don't ever want to see that document again, no big deal. I could just close that search out. But otherwise, as long as you leave them open, those multiple searches will be available for you to retreat back to them and very simply find what documents you were looking for based on some of those other searches. So that would be your multiple searches and recalling back some of those based on if you want to still be able to access those. Now I want to talk about our stored searches in DocuWare. These things are great if you have searches that you do daily, weekly, and maybe documents come in and out of these and you want to be alerted or aware when these documents have now met this search criteria. So if you use your stored searches, these are going to always be available. They're going to be saved searches for you, and you'll have the ability to know if new documents have become available in this particular search based on that criteria. It'll be more of a dynamic search, so it'll let you know as documents come and go in these stored searches. So that means now getting away from our standard searching, and now I'm going to introduce the list to you. If I do a search and I want to find documents for Flying Tom Germany that are a document type, let's say, well, let's just find our Flying Tom Germany documents. So we have 3 documents for Flying Tom Germany. Now, if I search for these all the time, or when a new document comes in for Flying Tom Germany, and let's just drill this down a little bit more to just Flying Tom Germany documents that are letters. So let's go with the letter in document. Now I should only have one document. So what I could do, if I look for only these letter in documents, or maybe someone else stores these letter in documents, and I want to know when they're available, what I would suggest doing would be based on this search criteria, using what we call here our saved searches or our stored searches. I'm going to create a saved search, and I'm going to call this my Flying Tom letter in docs. Okay? Now, when I save this now, it remains here as my search. It's still here as my search. But also what I've done now is if I look at my lists, I've now created a list for my Flying Tom letter in documents. So now if another document comes in that matches that criteria, it's going to automatically show up based on this search criteria for these documents. So let me just go back to my doc pool, change this search, bring up my Flying Tom documents. Now if I take my Flying Tom doc and I edit my index entries, and I change this to letter N now, save it, what's going to happen now when I come back to my list, you could see now it's changed from yellow to red, indicating there's a new document in my list. And if I hit my drop down, I'm going to see here now I have 2 documents in my list. So what I'm saying is these are more dynamic, so now you'll be able to always know when a document comes in to that particular search criteria, meets that criteria, and alerts you that that document is now available. Very useful. Okay, so that would be our stored search. Now I want to talk about using these lists. So these lists are predefined, and we just created one as a stored search, but I also am going to show you ones that have been centrally created by your DocuWare administrators. So a lot of times for workflow processes, they already know specifically based on index values what document types you might be looking for. So they pre-build and assign these to users, and then based on those, you will see how you could automatically find documents in the DocuWare system just based on the lists assigned to you as a user. So those lists, like I say, there's multiple lists in here. So of all these lists, if I come up, I have a list of my new invoices, rejected, circulating, approved, overdue, all these different tasks that I have, these different lists that I use. So if I go to my new invoices, what's happening is it's more or less a predefined search, and it knows exactly what documents I'm looking for in these lists. So if documents come in that meet that criteria, part of my daily business might mean I open up an invoice from my new invoice task list, and based on looking at that document, I may have the assignment to send this document off to particular users in the system, and then based on that process, it will take the document and move it directly out of that list, because now I've modified that document to its next location in a workflow process, perhaps. And then you see here, it's went to circulating. That means that that document's been changed, and now it's no longer a new invoice, but now it's out in the system as part of a possible workflow. And based on another user, they may have a responsibility to review that document. And you could see your lists line up the same way your searches do. So I could simply bounce through and find whatever documents I'm looking for in here, or I could simply hit my drop down and go look for a specific. So there's different ways of getting to them. There's different ways of creating them, but based on the defined criteria, it's going to help you immensely find any documents you might be using in the DocuWare system, specifically your day-to-day operations. So that's your list. Now I want to get into a little bit more of once we find these documents, we're going to take a look at the result lists. So our result lists really are what you search for comes back in what we call our result list, and you could personalize a little bit the way you want to view those documents. I could basically change the orders of those fields or sort them, but I just want to show you now in a result list, and this would be a result list, we could change the way these documents are viewable in a result list. So let me come back here to a search, and here's my Flying Tom documents in my search. What I'm talking about here is now I can not only use my standard table view, which me personally I'm very comfortable with, but I could use a thumbnail view. I could use an index card view, or I could use a text view, which will give me a little bit more information directly off the document in my view. So these are just ways that makes it more comfortable for you to find your documents or how you want to view them in your result list. Then you can sort by whatever fields you like. You could simply click on, maybe I'm looking for specific doc types. You could change and sort by those. You could sort by date. If you want to reorder your fields, maybe you want to see the company first and then the subject and then maybe the document type. So you could reorder the way those fields are viewed. So there's a lot of possibilities to just making things as comfortable as possible for you when you're working within the system. That's mostly about personalizing there. Then we have what we call our My DocuWare configuration. This really helps you as well the way you want to customize your DocuWare web client. So maybe what we do here is in our settings, every web client has their own set of settings, and what we could do here is based on our rights to certain dialogues, we could change how we want to view them. So first off, if we look at our searches, we could see here that I have rights as this user to multiple search dialogues. If I don't use these dialogues often, they're very simple to just turn off and on so you don't see them all the time. You still have access, but you don't see them all the time. In our result list, as I showed you how I moved fields around, we could do the same here where we could simply, maybe we don't want to see so many fields. We could just remove fields so they're no longer visible. Maybe I don't use a lot of these fields. I could take them out of my result view, and I could also reorder however I want to see these fields. So we could adjust this to make it as comfortable as possible for us the way we view our result list. Then if I go, that would be my searching, and these would be my result lists. And this includes not only all my task lists, but any search lists that I may have stored as well. And these, again, are the same. I have rights to all these. Now I just created my Flying Tom docs. Maybe I don't want that one anymore. I could delete it, or I could just simply deactivate it so I don't see it. Or maybe what I want to do is keep it active and possibly move it up to the top. So now it's the first task list that I see. So now when I save that and I look at my list, now I have my Flying Tom as my first one. So just all different possibilities of setting up your client to make it as comfortable as possible. That would be our configurations. Additional options here. So we do have additional options in our result list. Exporting. Once you have all these documents in your file cabinet, and once you have all this data, this indexing in your file cabinet, we give you a very simple process, simple ability to export out all the data. So if you want to import that into another system possibly, you could just simply run an export of whatever result list you have and export all that data out. You could also, which is very useful, send links to documents to other people within your organization. The linking is great if it's large documents or multiple documents. You don't want to send them all to someone physically, so you leave them in DocuWare and you just send them the link to them. So this would be easily accomplished if I come over and I change my search here, and maybe I reset it and I bring back a list of all my documents out of my file cabinet. If I wanted to, I could export this out, very simple, from my result list, export it out, which would take all this data and send it to a simple CSV file. Or I could send a result list. And when I send a result list, what I'm doing is, let me just give you another sample. Maybe I want to take all my Leisure Park Mosier documents and I have just reassigned someone to this Leisure Park account and I want them to have all the documents. I could simply take this entire list, export it. Oh, hit the wrong one. I could simply run my search and export it or send it as a result list, and it's basically going to send this link in an email to anyone I want to send it to. Then as long as they have rights to DocuWare, when they hit this link, it'll just open up that result list for them. So if it's a more complex result list that they're looking at, they would just simply have to click on this list or this link and retrieve all the same documents that I have. So basically, rather than send them all the documents, just send them that link and let them view them within DocuWare. Much more secure way of doing it as well, because now you're not taking anything out of DocuWare. So that's our result lists and our exporting of files. Then we can also look at a couple different options of the way we can view documents in DocuWare. And then I want to just show you here where we can edit. When we talk about edit in DocuWare, we're talking about opening up a document in its native application or native program. So in other words, if you have a document in DocuWare that's a Word document, if we use edit rather than open in our browser, we could open it up in Microsoft Word. Then I want to show you how we could change index entries, which I very quickly did when I showed you how I moved that document into my saved search, and printing as well, and some of the options we have of printing in DocuWare. So in our result list here, we can simply go back to our settings and show you in our lists, in our viewer here, always show DocuWare viewer in same window. That's what we're doing now. We have DocuWare and we have our viewer all in one window. We could open the viewer in a separate window, which now would mean we get our result list in one window, but when we open our viewer, we get a second window. Or open a DocuWare viewer with index dialog in a new window, which is new. And a lot of people like this view because now, if I do that, what we're doing now is if I search for a document and I bring up a document, now I'm using my whole screen for my result lists. And when I open up a document, now I'm opening in a separate window, and along with this separate window, I have the ability to view, index my document if I'd like, and I have access to all my tools. So these are just different ways of being comfortable with the way you handle documents in your viewer. Now I'm going to switch mine back to my original state, but be aware that you could change those anytime you want to use different possibilities. Now from my result list, if I do a search and I take a look at my documents, just like I was saying, if I have a document such as a Word doc, here's a Word doc. If I want to, rather than open it in my viewer, my possibilities to edit it means now I'm going to open that document, but rather than open it here in my DocuWare viewer, I'm basically opening that document in its original program, Microsoft Word, and now I could do whatever I want within this document. And when I save it, it'll go back in my DocuWare file cabinet and stay in its original format of Microsoft Word. Also from my result list, maybe I have documents in here that I want to change some indexing on. So now maybe rather than template for this document type, I made a mistake or I want to change it. I simply edit my index entries and I find my document type, and I could change this to whatever document type I would like it to be. So I don't have to take a document out of the file cabinet. I don't have to do anything but simply change those values right from my edit index entry option here. Now there's another thing. If you have rights, maybe all these documents need to be changed. Rather than go in and change each one of them, I could do edit multiple entries in that field of doc type, and maybe my new value will be non-disclosure agreements, and edit all those documents. And now I've changed a group of documents to the new document type. So that's another tool that's available. And then finally, what I could do is I could print documents. So if I want to, I could simply print this document out, and no matter what document type it is, so even if it's this Word document, I could print this out as a PDF, and if there's annotations on it, I can include those or remove those annotations when I print the document out. Now there's a few more options that I want to speak of as well. And these options here are downloading documents in their original formats versus as a PDF, and then sending some documents out of DocuWare. So these are just additional options of what we could do with documents once they are in the DocuWare file cabinet and we have them up in our result lists. So now here, my other options are, I could take a document and simply download it out, which means I'm going to take a copy of it, not physically remove it, take a copy of it out of DocuWare and save it on my local drive or an external drive or a portable USB drive, wherever I want to download that document out to. Now, of course, these are all based on rights. We could do that in its original format as well. We could download it out as a Word doc or change it to a PDF. Same with sending documents. I could send those documents in their original format or convert them to PDFs when I send them out, or use a hyperlink. What's a hyperlink? A hyperlink now would be a link to that physical document for anyone that would like to use it through a browser. So they'll basically get the link to open up that document. If I say I want to send it as a PDF without annotations, so let me just use that Word doc as a sample. Here's my Word document. If I want to send it out as a PDF without annotations, what it'll do, it'll simply take that document, convert it to the PDF format, and attach it to my email automatically. So this saves us from having to go find a document, export it out, attach it to an email, you just simply do send right from our cabinet. All right, couple more things I want to share with you. If you're working in the web client, we have the ability now to append documents or store documents based on documents or data that already exists in our file cabinet. So this is quite a useful little feature. So if I am working in my DocuWare client and I'm looking at some documents, so say I have a couple documents here. This document needs to be stored into the filing cabinet. I could store it very simply by doing a store, bring up a dialog box, and do my indexing. Or what I could do is maybe I just want to attach this to another document. If I need to do that, I could go to my split screen option and now view those same documents here. And now maybe what I'll do is I'll come over to my result list, change my search, look at my Flying Tom docs. Now I have a result list here. And maybe this document is part of my letter or my letter of intent. Whichever document that may be, I could simply take a document from my tray, drag it to my result list, and either clip it, which means attach it to the existing record, or store and bring in the same indexing for that document. So if I wanted to store it as a separate record with the same indexing and have the ability to modify it, I do a simple store. If I decide it's part of this document, I simply clip it. I can paste it in the document wherever it needs to be. So if it's a multi-page doc, you could just slide it wherever it wants to go or wherever you want it to go in the document. Could keep a copy of it in my tray, clip it, and now you could see here I've added, and there's a paper clip on that type of document, I've added that second page to my letter of intent. All right, I'm just going to share one more tool that we have, and this tool is what we call our SmartConnect, specifically our Smart Search within DocuWare. So what we do with our SmartConnect is we have the ability to place a button into your applications that you work with to retrieve images in DocuWare. So perhaps you work in an accounting system and you need to review an invoice, but the invoice isn't available to you from that accounting system, but it's stored in DocuWare. We make it very easy with our SmartConnect to simply use a button to hit and retrieve that image, or we could use hotkeys as well. We could configure hotkeys within this application to retrieve. So that means if I have documents in DocuWare, and maybe a document I'm looking for is part of my accounting process, and I'm in my accounting system, this is what I'm talking about. I have a button here for DocuWare. So maybe if I'm looking for a specific invoice from a company called Imaging System, rather than come over to DocuWare, open up my search dialog, look for my invoice from Imaging System, do a search and retrieval, I could simply from my application look for the invoice, use my smart search button, and it'll go out to my DocuWare file cabinet and automatically retrieve my document for me, which it's done. Now, if I'm back in my accounting system and maybe now I'm looking for my US Steel invoice, again, rather than go to the web client, I'll just use my smart search button and it'll retrieve that document for me. So that's very simple configuration, and based on where the data exists in your application, it'll automatically send that request out to DocuWare and retrieve that document for you. So that is our smart search. All right. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to today as far as our searching and document processing possibilities. I would like to say thank you for your attention. Thank you for attending today's webinar. If you have any questions, comments, you certainly can email me. I will make this available to view. You'll get a follow-up email tomorrow with a link to the webinar, and you could simply view it again if necessary. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you again soon. We'll have another session on Thursday. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.